Hey everybody, welcome to the Pet Food Puzzle Guy. And tonight I want to share a product that I personally have seen work amazing. And it's a great product because it's very cost effective compared to other therapeutic diets out there, but seems to work just as well. And it addresses both arthritis and joint health and obesity, two areas that conditions that are very common among dog folks out there. So I wanted to address that, and also kind of a little lesson in when we look at bags. We look at bags of dog food, and there's always so much BS marketing on it, and it's just pet food companies trying to convince us to feed their food. And I wanted to show you the bag of this product because there's actually some real science that I'm aware of that was done in the background that you don't get to see, and they put it on the bag, but clearly, of course, you can only mention it on a bag. You can't really get into it, but I wanted to show you how every now and then there's some real science that's on these bags of dog food, and it's not just marketing. So the product that I want to share with you is Science Diet Perfect Weight and Joint Support. And so let's get into it, and I'll give you the background behind it, why I think it's such a great diet. We'll look at the nutrients, we'll look at the ingredients. But again, I also want to look at the bag to show you some real science that's reflected on the bag that most people would miss if they're just kind of going through it. Okay, so here we go. So we'll do this a little different. We're actually going to use the bag as a pet parent. We're just going to read the bag. I want to point out some features on the bag, some real good science that I'm aware of, and then some of the just the marketing BS that's stuck on there to because you got to do that stuff to look good, that kind of thing. Not BS, just it has nothing to do with nutrition. Okay, that's what I mean. So we'll go ahead and I'm going to actually film the bag and talk about it a little bit, and then we'll get a little deeper into it because I want you to really understand the science behind this and the opportunity to feed a food that's the regular cost of an over-the-counter premium food, not at the prescription diet price, and get the same benefits. So that's there you go. There's a hack for you. That's a pretty good tip to know. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take a look at the bag first, go through it, and then get into the little deeper stuff. Okay, so here you go. Here's the back of the bag, and I'm just gonna. I haven't rehearsed this, but so what we're gonna do, we're just gonna go down here and start over here in the corner. Hills number one, U.S. veterinarians number one recommended. Hills has to prove that every once in a while legally, and I can tell you as a former Hills rep of 34 years, a lot of veterinarians use Hills. Not only do they recommend it, but they use it for their own dogs and cats, and that's real common. It's not because they're paid to or bribed or whatever. It's just they believe in the nutrition and they see the nutrition in their pets' lives and in the pets that they treat. And if we go down here, chicken is the number one ingredient. Okay, well, here we go. We're starting with the marketing first here. Everybody does this, or they try to do it for just for the reason that people believe it should be that way. You all know that's manipulation. The chicken, we don't know the quality of it without looking at the nutrients. And the chicken, of course, the water weight shoots it to the front of the ingredient panel. So da 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 da. That's true with everybody. I like the 100% money back guarantee. That's cool. Natural ingredients with added vitamins, minerals, and amino acids. Um, Again, natural ingredients, whatever. Obviously, there's some synthetic vitamins and minerals in there, and a lot of times, pre-digested amino acids are Hills is starting to add even to renal diets. So, a little bit of science there with the amino acid mention, but again, the natural. Notice they made it nice and big, so you see it right. Let's keep going. No chicken byproduct meal. Again, just marketing. There's nothing wrong with chicken byproduct meal. Just depends on the quality of it. So again, a little bit of marketing there. We have proud to have helped 13 million shelter pets find a forever home and counting. That shelter program by Hills is fabulous. It's wonderful. Shelters love it, and it's a really great way that Hills gives back to the animals out there. So that's a good thing. That's not just BS. Clinically proven antioxidants, vitamin C and E for a healthy immune system. Clinically proven. Hills did a lot of work with antioxidants, and if you notice on my reviews and sometimes Dr. Ray's reviews, when she looked at vitamin E in particular diets, Hills is always way up there because they did the research. They looked at alcohol levels. They looked at cellular damage, free radicals, all that kind of stuff. Actually, back way in the now probably about 20 years ago. So that's legit what they're saying there, clinically proven versus just a small amount of vitamin E in the food that's not doing anything. And of course, made in America. I got to stick the American flag on there. So that gives you a little bit there. Let's move up to the nutrition stuff. What are they saying there? Breakthrough nutrition for weight management and mobility support. And that is really true. That's the claim, and we're going to get a little deeper into that. But let's just keep looking here. What do we have here? Nutrition for safe and effective weight loss with visible results within 10 weeks, and in parentheses to a USA study. There were many studies done on a very similar food to this, which was metabolic plus mobility, which is a very expensive prescription diet. This diet is a me too of that, to be sure, just at a whole lot lower price. And so I don't know how many studies were done in particular with this diet, but with the whole concept of this diet that I'll show you in a minute, that's definitely been proven. And it is, I can tell you just from results I heard from people that this diet worked just as well as metabolic plus mobility. So that's a good thing. Let's go up to the top here. At Hills, we have been studying how nutrition impacts pet cell function for over a decade. It's definitely been over a decade because I've been around. I remember hearing all about it. And that's what we're going to talk about a little more in depth. But let's just keep going a little further. Overweight dogs have a different biology than lean dogs. We formulate with this in mind. That is very true. And I'm going to bring you over to here. And this is kind of neat because this illustration they're showing you of these cells downregulated and upregulated. That's what we're going to talk about in depth when I stop looking at the bag here. But I wanted you to see it on the bag, and then I'll probably take a picture and we'll talk about it. Glucosamine and chondroitin are building blocks of healthy cartilage. Yeah, it's in there. As far as I know, there's still no real good proof of how much should be in a diet, and even if in a diet it's effective. So it's kind of anecdotal, I believe, at this point. If you want glucosamine and chondroitin, you really have to go with the proven supplements. And again, it's kind of my personal opinion, but from what I remember from the nutritionists, it's in there. People want it in there. There's nothing wrong with it, but how effective it is the big question. That's really not the beauty of this food. The beauty of this food is changing the cell expression there, which we're going to talk about in a second. And clinically proven levels of omega-3 rich fish oil to support hip and joint health and mobility. We're going to talk about that as well, and we're going to talk about it in the context of, again, looking at gene expression and cellular expression and see how this diet really is unique. So if you have an overweight pet, or especially if they're overweight and showing signs of some arthritis, that kind of thing, this is a really cool diet. And I want to talk about this right here a little more in depth. Okay, so I'm looking at that graph that's on the bag, and I'll put a still of it up here so you can see it. And what this represents is genes. Now, without getting really deep into this, every gene in your body and in your dog's body has a purpose, and they're designed that way. You can't take a gene and do, something else with it. It's designed to be a gene for this or that, whatever their purpose is. Now, what Hills learned. Now, the term is nutrigenomics. Sometimes you're hearing it called predictive biology these days, but nutrigenomics was really big. Again, Hills says on the bag for about 10 years. Even before that, they were working on it. I even remember when President Obama, I was watching him on TV doing one of his speeches, and he said something about donating like $5 million to this research facility. It was human medicine. But what was it? It was nutrigenomics. So this is not just something that Hills came up with, this is a real science. And the science is nutrigenomics, kind of like it sounds, how nutrients affect gene expression. Now, like I said, we can't change what a gene's purpose is, and that's God's just decided that it's fixed, okay? But what we can do is we can downregulate or upregulate the expression of that gene. So if it's a good gene that we really want to enhance in the diet or in the dog, we can upregulate that. And if it's something that's actually causing harm to the dog, well, we can downregulate. So you can imagine the science. I mean, if we can really explore this and learn more, we're doing it with dogs and cats. Can we do it with people? Now, of course, we always joke on this channel, if people would just eat a healthy, balanced diet like their dogs and cats, but we don't, right? But we could. So the science is real. And Hills did a lot of studies in this, a lot of work on it. I remember there was a whole wing at the research facility. It looked like NASA, and it was just devoted to nutrigenomics and cellular expression. And what you're looking at is with this chart. Let me put the chart up if I haven't put it up yet. On your, I think it'll be on your left. I think okay, where the obese dog is, if it's still in the picture. They looked at the gene expression of obese dogs, and they did this with cats as well. So it's same is true, okay? But let's stick with dogs. What they found was when you look at that column there, the vertical line is showing you a bunch of dogs, okay? So I don't know how many are in there. I can't tell from my picture, maybe 20 dogs, something like that. The vertical line, each one of those little squares is a gene. And so this is to help illustrate when don't ask me how they do this, what kind of machine does this, but downregulated genes turn out to be blue color, and the red ones are upregulated. They're hot. They're working, okay? If you look next to it is another column, again, a bunch of genes. And what do we see in the lean dog? You see actually the same genes, same purpose of those genes, but they're opposite, right? What's the deal? Well, when you look at the first column, the blue ones that you're looking at, those are fat burning genes. And in the obese dog, those genes are what? They're fat burning. That's what they're there to do. That's good metabolism. But for some reason, they're down regulated. Now, the last thing I remember, Hills was still trying, and other companies too, other scientists out there, this is not just Hills research, but they weren't sure, was it because of the obesity caused that gene change? Is it genetic? Whatever. It's still lots of questions to be answered. But what they found was the fat burning genes were down regulated, so they're all blue. And then we see the fat uh, storing genes, they're red. They're working really well. They're storing fat and calories really well. So thus, there you go. There's your obese dog. Okay. So unhealthy metabolism, you could call it that if you want, but gene expression is definitely hurting. And that's why when we fed the old school diets of high fiber and low fat and starved dogs and filled up their stomachs with insoluble fiber and all that, thinking, we were reducing calories. Well, that should cause weight loss, not when you look at the genetic expression of that dog. It was fighting against, and clients would tell us, they would tell my doctors, they'd say, I'm feeding just what you tell me to feed, and the dog's not losing weight, and he's always hungry. And it's because we didn't understand metabolism. We just were back in the old day of high calories or low calories. We didn't understand what was really going on at a genetic cellular level. If you look at again, we go to the other column now. What do we see with lean animals? We find their fat burning genes, the ones up on top, but they're red, right? They are burning calories. They're burning fat. They're doing what they're supposed to do. What do we see below? The fat storing genes are down regulated. So no wonder the dog is nice and lean. For all the calories they're taking in, their body's burning them. Now, again, metabolism is a very unique thing, just like people. There's people that have great metabolism and can eat like a horse. There's others that they just look at food or especially walk in a room with carbs and they gain weight, right? That's all metabolism. That's all your cellular expression. And that's what we learned here. And so, you look at this bag of food and you just see this little, chart here. And I'm sure for most people, it's like, yeah, just like looking at a bag with blueberries and, the species appropriate, whatever, all the silly stuff you see on the bags. And I did share some of the silly stuff that Hills has on the bag. This, though, is so interesting and so life altering or life improving science, and it's reduced to this little this little chart on the back. But I can tell you, the product came out, was metabolic. I remember the in-home studies they did, because Hills was like, this diet is working great with our colony of dogs, or with, we can control the whole environment. But what about regular folks at home? We sent them home with a obesity diet, RD in the day, Purina had OM, Royal Canin had satiety, and they don't work, because people overfeed them. The dog's always hungry. It's just never works. So they did a study, and I wish I could remember all the details. It was I forget how many dogs were used, but the range in breeds went from a 5 pound up to like almost a 200 pound, one of those mastiff type dogs, and they let them feed it at home. They didn't tell them that the food was a weight management food. It came in white bags. Didn't tell anything about it. But the veterinarians were in on it, and they knew, okay, I'm going to send this home with obese animals, and I'm going to figure out their target weight, their healthy weight, tell them to feed that amount. Okay. They did this with cats as well, which is amazing. And within I think it was like 10 weeks or 12 weeks, something like that, the weight loss was amazing. And the thing was, people didn't even know they were on a weight loss diet. The survey was, how tasty is it? What's his stool quality? Everything but weight. And with the cats, now we're not talking cats here, but again, the science is true for both species. The cat people, when the study was over, the weight loss was amazing, and they asked the cat clients afterwards how many of them actually fed canned food along with the dry food that they were given. And I think it was about a third of them said, yeah, we added canned to it, because they didn't know it was a weight management study, right? So that's amazing that you could actually overfeed and still see great results. And I remember what was so ironic, in one of the veterinary journals, JAVMA, or one of them, a weight loss clinic in England. That's all they do is weight loss. Imagine that. That's a specialty clinic. They had just published some of their great results with all this exercise plan and diet plan and all this. I mean, it was like, Nazi fat camp kind of thing. And the results they got were almost identical to what Hills got with this blind study, just giving free food to people with their overweight pets and seeing the results. So it was pretty impressive. And that's where those of us that were reps knew, wow, this is different, because we have not seen low calorie, high fiber diets work. This stuff definitely is working, and nothing is better. And I've said this before, my favorite part of my job was when I'd learn about a diet like this. I'd go and hear the lectures and everything, and that was all great and exciting. And I loved going in, sharing that with the veterinarians and their teams. But I would tell veterinarians, the real test is when you come back to me and tell me what your clients are saying. And that's what started happening with metabolic. And that was with metabolic. Then Hills said, you know what, this works so great, we're gonna make a science diet version of it. And they did. And same way, I remember my daughter's she was a karate instructor, and her instructor was feeding it and said it was amazing. I think it was her lab. And now I was a veterinary rep at the time, so I was a little disappointed. I wanted it to be metabolic, my clinic, but it was the perfect weight. And now, what did they do then? Well, we'll go back to metabolic. A lot of times dogs that were overweight were arthritic. So Hills, again, they're looking at the cellular activity. What did they find? If we, and I don't have the graph, actually I never saw a graph on this, but the dogs that were arthritic, they looked at certain genes, and it was the genes that were producing the agrokinase enzymes that were destroying the cartilage. Voila. What they found was they were upregulated. Guess what? Let's downregulate those. Doesn't that make a lot of sense? So you're interrupting the damage, you're interrupting the pain cycle. And how did you do that? It says it on the bag. You use fish oil, which is high in omega-3s. And the key to this diet and metabolic, and then JD was the diet that came from this gene expression research. So you had metabolic and you had JD, the joint diet. And then, of course, veterinarians doing what was right, they said, wish you guys could combine that, because overweight dogs are arthritic, and arthritic dogs tend to be overweight. And what do? Do we go with JD to reduce the pain, or do we go with metabolic to reduce the obesity, which of course is going to improve the arthritis, but we didn't help the pain. We haven't broken that cycle of damage. So while Hills, eventually the nutritionists were able to come out with a combination, and no, they didn't just take that bag and mix them together. I could only imagine how they had to make this, but they finally did. It was metabolic plus mobility, and just an awesome diet. And what did Hills do? Which again, I give them credit. And veterinarians don't care. Veterinarians want to save you money. I was just at the vet, and so prices are so bad, but we want people to do tests. We want them to do screenings. We want them to do dentals, but we have to keep the prices where they're willing to do it. So they're caught between a rock and a hard place right now. But that's another discussion. But so what happened was Hill said, you know what, let's take this metabolic mobility, metabolic plus mobility. Let's put that in a Science Diet product. And that's what perfect weight and joint support is. And so it's pretty cool to be getting all those benefits, 100% benefit of the arthritis uh, uh, management and the obesity management all in one food, and at a Science Diet price instead of prescription diet price. And veterinarians today, they're more than happy to say, hey, go buy it from Chewy. They don't want to carry it in their clinic. They don't want to make the few little bit of money they make on it. They don't want to store it and have to order it. They much rather send you with a script to go get it from Chewy or Amazon, whatever. So I don't think I'm hurting any veterinarians' feelings or their business by telling you this would be a great way. If funds are a little limited, I would definitely be trying the perfect weight plus joint support, these names. And that's how it works. I mean, it's the ultimate in science. Again, this isn't just Hills doing this nutrigenomics, but I will tell you, I don't find many diets out there that are doing this. That this is really state of the art. And I just wanted to, I think it's a great illustration of looking at the bag. And most people would just like, yeah, okay, whatever. I see all that stuff on the bags. Some of this is actually really legit, and they can't even put on here how cool this diet is. Uh, and it comes in a star. I'm sorry, star. It comes in a heart shape, so the kibble is actually little hearts. So there you go. I mean, come on. But anyway, it's available. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's available in canned as well. Now, canned would be really, now you're getting back into the expense again. Nothing wrong with feeding dry for weight loss and for um, arthritis management. If we were feeding renal dogs and cats or urinary, things like that, sure, then canned would definitely be preferred. In this case, because of the cost, I would stick with dry. Okay. And I think that is about it. So now we need to look at the ingredient panel and the actual nutrients, because I know you want to see that. But I wanted to share with you, this is one of those cool diets that if you're just walking through PetSmart or even online, it's going to look like every other diet out there, and it's not. It really is unique. Again, it's different than just a high fiber, low fat diet. Sure, you're delivering less calories, but the dog still, their body still, their unhealthy metabolism just wants to hold that fat and calories, not burn it. So it really is a losing battle, not a weight losing battle. It's a losing battle, and they're hungry. That was the other thing we learned about metabolism, that when you have an animal whose metabolism is out of whack, like these charts show, that satiety trigger gets turned off. So all those years, I feel so guilty now when doctors would say, yeah, my clients are saying the dog is hungry on Hills RD or Purina OM or even Royal Canin satiety, ironically. I said, oh, that's ridiculous. There's so much fiber. It's filling up their stomach so much. It shoots that hormone to the brain, tells them they're full. Well, now that we understand metabolism, that isn't true. Okay. I don't know if that's true with people or not, to be honest, but I know with animals that tends to be true. So you've got to get them feeling satisfied, reduce calories, but you've got to change that metabolism so they start burning fat instead of storing it. That's what this diet does. Let's take a look at the ingredient panel real quick. Okay, so we'll just take a look at the ingredient panel right off the bag. I don't have to look it up. Chicken is the first ingredient. That's great. Of course, we know why, because of the the water weight. Brown rice is next. That's a carbohydrate. There's some amino acids, has different vitamins and minerals. Chicken meal. So there's your probably much more amino acids coming from the chicken meal because it's dried form. It's way at the front of the ingredient panel. A third ingredient. So again, the real chicken and the chicken meal are making up a lot of the protein as far as the amino acids delivered. Without looking at the nutrient levels, though, no, I trust Hills. I know their nutrient levels are going to be good, but you have no idea the quality of that chicken meal or that chicken without looking at the mineral content and seeing what they've done with those ingredients. Corn gluten meal. Now, there's another protein source for sure. The corn gluten, now it's called corn protein meal. They've changed the name, same ingredient, but that's using just the heart of the corn, the protein part, and that's and in addition to the meat, is adding more amino acids to improve the amino acid profile. Powdered cellulose is a fiber source. Um, Pea fiber, another fiber source, so that's fine. We need that in here, probably for a little bit of calorie control. Brewer's rice, whole grain corn. Now here's whole grain corn, which would be what? A carbohydrate for energy, things like that, fatty acids, not the same as corn protein meal. Uh, what else do we have? I lost my place. Dried tomato pumice. That would definitely be a prebiotic that's feeding some of the gut microbiome. Soybean meal. There is another uh, plant protein that actually has. Somebody remind me. Soybean was really high in lysine, I think, and the corn gluten meal I think is high in methionine. I may have that backwards, but the idea is, but you're combine. This is what nutritionists do. They combine different ingredients to get all the different nutrients they want to compile a complete diet, and that's what we're after. Carrots. There's carrots, soybean oil, hydrolyzed chicken flavor. Now that's flavoring. Hydrolyzed is fine. Um, Coconut oil. There's fish oil. Finally, the omega 3s in this diet is really critical. Look at how far down the list it is. Fish oil and flaxseed are both um, for the fatty acids and especially omega 3s. Fish oil is definitely superior over flaxseed. Flaxseed has its place, but you definitely need to have fish oil to get the high levels of omega 3s that we need for this diet to do its magic. And then we're on to some other stuff. Pork liver flavor. It's interesting they have two different flavor enhancements going in this diet, but we want them to eat it, right? Otherwise, what's the point? So I think that's probably enough there. I'm not going to look at the guaranteed analysis. We'll look at the actual dry weight analysis. Calorie content 300 kcals per metabolizable energy per cup. That's pretty typical. The AFCO statement. Dr. Ray always loves the AFCO statement, right? Animal feeding tests using AFCO procedures substantiate that Hill Science diet, adult perfect weight, and joint support. Oh, this is large breed. Provides complete and balanced nutrition for maintenance of adult dogs. So there you go. Feeding trials. Now, again, here's a good example. The AFCO feeding trial for this diet, is that really something to go, ooh, that's really important? That's really, versus all the studies done to show the efficacy of this diet for cellular differences and changing gene expression and weight loss and arthritis management. So that's where, when you look at prescription diets, and here's a good example. This is not a prescription diet, but the science behind this food has nothing to do with that AFCO statement. Okay, if it hadn't been through an AFCO feeding trial, I could care less, because that's just that minimal, what, 6 or 8 dogs, you kept them alive for, for 6 months or something. The research that goes into some of these diets goes way far beyond that. So that's where the feeding trials sometimes are not that necessary. Let me find the actual nutrient levels on a dry matter basis. Okay, so I had to go to the website to get the actual dry matter percentage, and I'm not surprised to see it's pretty impressive. So the protein level on a dry matter basis, remember, if we look at small animal clinical nutrition, what is it? The optimal range is 15% up to 30%. This comes in at 28.5%, so that's great. The fat level's at 14.3, so that's fine as well. Let's go down to the minerals, of course. So, well, I have to mention fiber here because this is 15% fiber. Okay, so it is higher than the typical 3, 4, 5% we might see in a normal food. So that is helping with satiety. But again, that's not the key. This isn't just a typical high fiber food. It's because of the um, gene expression going on, changes going on in this food. Let's look at calcium and phosphorus. That's the biggies I always look at. Now, this goes back to, remember when I said we looked at chicken and chicken meal? Well, is it really good stuff or not? Well, if it wasn't really good stuff, it'd be hard for them to control the calcium and phosphorus in the food. And what do we see? Calcium for small animal clinical nutrition, the optimal range was up to 1%. Very few foods do we find at that. Well, we find 0.9% for this diet. Phosphorus, 0.68, and it's up to the optimal range is what, zero point 0.4 up to 0.8. This is at 6.8, right in that middle range. I mean, this is really, again, what can I say? Sodium level 0.35%, pretty typical of what we see in other foods. And then the vitamin E level just happens to be here. And I mentioned vitamin E, 713 international units per kilogram of food. 713, what are you going to find in most foods? 150, maybe 300, maybe 400. When it comes to antioxidants, Hills has done the research, and the research they've done, they've put it into the food, and that's why you typically see this. And there's some foods, I think Dr. Ray and I have both reviewed some Hills diets that went as high as 1,000 international units. So they look really impressive there. So just wanted to share that with you. We looked at the ingredient panel. We looked at the the nutrient levels. These nutrient levels are nice and healthy. They're renal friendly. They're urinary friendly. High antioxidants, which of course is just good for free radical damage. And again, the beauty of this diet, if you have a dog that is overweight or arthritic or both, and you really don't want to spend the kind of money for the prescription diets out there, I would highly recommend you give this a shot. I have to say, right now, let me take my glasses off so I can say this eye to eye to you. I am not being sponsored by Hills in any way, shape, or form. No one is paying me to recommend this food. So that's important. It's just been my own personal experience with it in the clinics that I've worked with and people I've talked to. And again, the research behind it is pretty cool. So the fact it's in a over-the-counter food, man, that just makes it so much better. So let me know if you give it a try or if you've used it. I know I've mentioned this diet before and probably people have already responded, but I just was having a conversation with somebody. I said, boy, I really need to grab a bag of that stuff and do this. So senior moment, if I've already I've probably talked about it before, I'm sure, but I wanted to put a little more in-depth look at it. All right. So I hope that is beneficial to some of you. Appreciate you being here. And remember, treat every day like it's precious because it is. All right. Catch you on the next one.